chance to do that. So normally I'm really slow and it's not, but we're going to use the wall to advantage today. First, some stretch, hopefully kind of in as you go and adjust. So this is kind of some blankets, some bolsters are also really nice. They're not necessary for this one, but if you don't have bolsters, you can take some towels or some blankets, kind of folding them up in the shape of a bolster and then wrapping them or shoving them into a pillowcase. That works really well too. So our first pose that we're going to start out is just simple legs up the wall. So there's a few different ways that you can do this. One of them being coming into the pose without a bolster. And you're going to come into the same way, and I'll show you, or you can use a bolster, and that's going to kind of help open the heart as well, because your shoulders kind of fall on either side. So either using a bolster or not, if you come to your wall really close, having your hip really close to it, and then begin to spin, and as you turn, bringing your legs up the wall and kind of scooting your hips as close as you possibly can. Now, if you're using a bolster, we want to make sure that we're being mindful of the cervical spine. So not letting our neck kind of fall too far. So bringing this pillow to kind of lift, and then you can adjust it as high as you like. Sometimes you might want that little bit of the head falling back to open up the throat, and then here, releasing open on each side of the bolster. Or you can just be down on the ground, no bolster underneath you, just flat against the mat. If you like, you can roll at the bottom edge, just so it has a little support and the natural curvature of your neck. You can also, if you want to have some weighted bags, placing them on your feet, and that really kind of helps create a little bit of compression into the hip socket. You can also try the bolster, a separate bolster for this feeling as well. Some people don't like the way this feels. Kind of feels like it might fall on you and it might not, but that kind of can create, we can even keep stacking things to mimic that weight. But from here, your one job is to just relax. So with your feet here up against the wall, we're creating a good amount of lymphatic drainage. So wherever you are, see if you can't soften. Take a big deep inhale. Expand the low belly, let that breath travel your spine. Feel your back and your waist expand, your ribs, the space between shoulder blades. And as you exhale, do so slowly, steadily. Each inhale, noticing a little bit more space created. Each exhale, softening down. And there's no effort here. So just really getting the body to relax as much as possible, letting the shape that our body is in to create space, to create ease. So maybe noticing if there's some tension between your shoulder blades. And let that exhale draw that tension out and away. And today I was mostly inspired by awe. And that was brought to my attention through some things that I read from Abraham Joshua Heschel, who was a rabbi. So there's two quotes in particular that I'm going to read that are nice to take our attention towards today. So he says, the meaning of awe is to realize that life takes place under wide horizons, horizons that range beyond the span of an individual life, or even the life of a nation, a generation, or an era. Awe enables us to perceive in the world intimations of the divine, to sense in small things the beginning of infinite significance, the ultimate in the common, to feel in the rush of the passing of the stillness of the eternal. So as I record this, it just so happens to be the beginning of a new year. But all of those words, being in awe and taking in the significance in the small, is something that I personally wish to carry with me throughout the entire and always. It's gentle. You can hear space, maybe intention mantra, and maybe it's that I enjoy and find pleasure in the small details of life. I am in awe of the divine in all of the simple. During this time, just remain connected to that breath, the simplicity of breath, but also how much just our breath can make significant changes. So as you notice some holding, some tightness and tension, putting your focus of the inhale, as if you could send the inhale right to that space, maybe it's between the shoulder blades, and the exhale carries it away, and there's a smoothing and ironing out of that holding. You might even notice some tension in your legs. Maybe you're attempting to hold them up yourself. See if on an exhale you completely trust gravity, trust the wall. Let your body sink into both. Breath alone has the ability to signal into the vagus nerve that all is okay. 3 deep breaths, breathing deep into the low belly and letting it extend the ribs, and then slowly exhaling it out. It's a signal to our nervous system that everything is okay, allowing us to shift into that rest and digest where there is healing. All of these simple but yet super significant instances of how our body goes throughout the day. Taking some time just to now fan out the toes. So if you do have weights on your feet, remove those. Fanning out the toes, fanning out your fingers. You can bring your hands up and just start to make some circles. If it feels better to move away from the wall now as you circle, go ahead and do so. Or if your feet are still against the wall, you can simply point and flex, even bend and straighten into the knees. And then bringing your feet back up, just another move I don't often make, but as if you could separate your feet. I'm just checking to see if you could see them. So if you could bring your pinky toes as if you could almost turn your feet to the walls on the right or left of you, and then turn your feet almost so you could get the bottoms of your feet to touch each other. So we don't typically make this movement with our feet, this outward and inward rotation. It's just kind of being nice and gentle to our joints. You might notice how foreign it feels. And then moving into the next pose, the next restorative, is a gentle butterfly. So bringing the soles of the feet together, and we'll definitely have a couple of options here. What I would recommend is bringing the soles of the feet together a little bit away from your seats, and then just allowing them to kind of gently slide down the wall into whatever feels really nice to you. There's no need to press the knees against the wall unless maybe you'd like to do that just because it feels good, creating a little bit of traction. So if you kind of were to press above the knees, you might notice your spine elongate here, but only feels good and isn't super intense. So just being really gentle today, and then find a release. If this is really intense on your inner thighs or on those hip creases, feel free to go one at a time. So just bringing one foot down, extending one leg, and I'll let you know when we're halfway through, and then you can switch out, bringing the opposite leg in. And you might even notice as you're sitting here in this butterfly, as you sit for a while, that those feet kind of slide down a little bit more, and that's fine. Just allow that relaxation of the entire hip area. Let out a sigh, let out an exhale. And maybe even beginning to let your mind drift to the common and the simple, to notice in your body a sense of stillness and then listening those intimations of the divine, listening to that stillness within, or contemplating that simple. Again, as you exhale, think of softening into the hip creases. There's no need to hold here. We're not looking for deep stretch. We're looking for deep relaxation, letting gravity do all of the work. Your one job in this pose is to just fully and deeply relax. Maybe even taking this space to focus that breath right in the heart space. So noticing all of your ribcage expand on either side as you exhale, as a clearing, washing away. And if you have just one leg up, go ahead and switch that out with the opposite leg in, other leg out. Letting the exhale soften into the eyebrows, your forehead, the muscles around the eyes. Let them soften. Allow your jaw to soften, your tongue, your teeth to part so you're not clenching. Allow yourself a few more full deep breaths in this space. Let that breath show you any holding on of tension. Let it go out with the exhale. See if there isn't some last residual tension, maybe right in the hips that you can't soften. Then using your hands, bring them to your knees, even if it's just one knee out, and just gently draw those knees towards each other. You can even bring the soles of the feet against the wall, maybe even wrapping the hands around the knees, hugging them into the chest, feeling that nice little compression now into the hip socket. As you breathe in, feel your low belly expand, pressing against your thighs. As you exhale, almost as if that squeezing into the knees could draw that breath out. Bring the legs straight once again up the length of the wall, keeping the left foot straight. Then we'll cross the right leg over. So the right leg is crossed just above the ankle, keeping the right foot flexed. That right knee is going to stay open. And then just gently, you can bring your arms out to the side now. Begin to slide that left heel down, keeping that right foot flexed. And then just finding that space where you feel that nice stretch, but it's not overly intense. You can soften into it. We'll spend a few moments on each side. So breathing into that hip crease, that outer hip. As you exhale, feel the jaw, throat, collarbone soften. And then maybe there's another door and you begin to let that heel glide down a little bit more. There's no need to force. A lot of Abraham Joshua Herschel's teachings reminds me of some of our current Kate Boland. She was actually a professor recently. She's young, 34, and diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer, and her works are great reminders of moments. We can't force ourselves into creating these exciting, wonderful moments. She explains that sometimes there's just minutes in a day that we have to do things, but when we pay attention, then we get to notice these moments that occur, that shift and change us and touch us, and they're beautiful and glorious. But they're always usually in these small ways, right? Because we sometimes miss them because we're busy, or maybe because being present is hard because we're human. And we often need of the little things and their significance. Feel free to back off of this and come back into it as you like. You might notice that compression in the hip socket being rather intense. We'll spend just a couple more breaths on this side. You might even notice, depending on how close your hips are, how far away, you can flex into your foot, and that draws in a little bit deeper into the stretch, but in a different way. And maybe even it feels good to get a little rocking motion side to side. Just move really slow and soften into the shoulders, soften into face, soften into your neck. Now gently slide that left leg back up and slowly, slowly unwind. Bring that right leg to meet the left. Taking a moment there just to pause, maybe noticing the difference. And then you can even let that right leg just sort of gently glide outwards slightly. And bring that right leg in. Knee can be bent. It doesn't need to be straight here either. There's no need to overstretch or cause too much intensity in the hamstrings. Now crossing the left leg. So above the right knee and above the left ankle, flexing into the left foot. That left knee stays open just so it's not collapsing inward. And then once again, bring those arms out to the side, relax the shoulders, and then slowly let that heel just soften down to the wall. Once you find that space of a nice stretch, move slow. Take your time, let breath move into the stretch, and then maybe just a little bit deeper that you can go, just allowing yourself this slow, easy space. Keeping that left foot flexed, that left knee is kind of energetically moving back towards the wall. So even if it collapses a little bit, that's okay. Not pressing with the hand though. We're being really gentle and easy on the knee, on the hip. Again, you can always ease off of that stretch and then slowly come back into it. Maybe it feels good to find a little rocking from side to side. You might even notice different areas of the glute and hip being stretched as you rock, and maybe you notice a little bit of stickiness. It feels good to rest. You can even flex, draw those toes back towards your face. You'll notice a little deeper. And just even here, noticing the small, tiny movements, adjustments that you make and where you feel them in your body. Even when you feel a release of tension and somewhere that might seem insignificant, maybe it's that small little space behind your neck, but how it feels throughout your whole body when it releases. And then slowly straighten that right leg. And then the left, moving nice and slow. Taking a moment just to notice now how this feels, or notice that little rush of blood into that space where there was compression. And slowly wearing that left heel side. And you could stack blocks against the wall and just let that leg rest if you'd like. Or move the blocks and let that heel just kind of find that own space where you feel it in your hip crease or maybe your inner thigh. Again, the knee can be bent. It doesn't need to be straight. Right knee can be bent too. There's no reason to create unnecessary tension. We're looking to release tension today. On your next exhale, we'll bring that left leg. And then once again, soles of the feet kind of pressing, drawing those knees into the chest. You can even just draw the knees and the chest feet away from the wall and rock a little from side to side, being mindful if you're on a bolster to not go too far. And then we're going to eventually roll over to one side. So if you are on a bolster, being really mindful that you don't just completely bail off. Rolling over and pressing ourselves up nice and slow. And then keeping your mat close to the wall, maybe not this close for this next pose. So we're going to be coming back down to our backs. So if you have a wall along your right side now, and kind of maybe moving your body a little bit away from the wall. So we're going to do a little bit of twist as well as stretch on our IT bands. So the wall is on the right hand side. So bringing that left leg, and we're just going to kind of twist and stack the hips. Shoulder blades can stay on the mat. And then you might just kind of keep moving back so that left foot is against the wall, knee can be bent, and then kind of finding this nice little press against the wall to whatever feels good. You'll notice maybe a bit of intensity on the IT band here. And if it becomes too intense, go ahead and back off, bend into that knee. There's another option with this one. So as you're kind of pressing, and you can even play back and forth with bending and straightening just to get into that IT band. You can also take this right foot, bring it towards your seat, and maybe even grab hold of those toes with the left hand. And you might notice a little bit of stretch in the front of the right quad as well. So in yin, we call this cattail, when you can hold here. And this is really intense if this leg is straight, shoulders are on the mat. Big, deep inhale, cleansing and clearing exhale. And remember, grabbing hold of that bottom leg is just an option. You can release here if it feels best, just to feel this twist, this pressing the foot against the wall, or maybe even bending. And you can move as close or far, just kind of play with it, what feels good with your body. And in this moment, and again, noticing the little subtle changes. Taking one more big, deep inhale. Fill all the way up. This time as you exhale, release your jaw. Let that air press out. And release that left foot from against the wall. Come back towards center and take a moment just to windshield wiper the knees from side to side. And then gently, however is easiest for you, I would recommend rolling over to one side, gently pressing up, and then kind of giving yourself a little spin. So now the wall is on your left. Scooting enough away from the wall so I'm not even an arm length away. So once again, hips are kind of tilting. So I'm lifting up hips coming to the side of my left hip. Right shoulder blade is going to stay down towards the mat. Taking your right foot, kind of pressing it against the wall. And again, kind of wiggling your body to find whatever that space that feels good to you. Then as you press and straighten into that knee, you might notice that lighting up of the IT band, only moving so far as feels good to you. Gaze can go towards the opposite finger, so the right fingertips if that feels best. And again, you have the option to kind of bend, bring that left heel towards your seat. You can take hold of the left toes, kind of the top of the left foot by the toes with the right hand, and then kind of gently draw that towards your seat as you press that heel away, creating that cat tail. Breathing into whatever space you're in and the intensity of it, and see if there's a softness that you can't find somewhere else in your body. A release of tension around your eyes, your jaw. Take one more big, deep inhale. Filling up as you exhale. Release your jaw, let out a sigh. Release this twist, coming back towards center. Once again, the little windshield wipering of the knees from side to side always feels nice on the low back. And once again, gently rolling over to one side, pressing ourselves up. And so now coming to face the wall, a couple of options for this one as well. You could have knees on a bolster or just a rolled up blanket or towel. I kind of like to have the height of the bolster, and then I keep my feet tucked, my toes tucked under, so there's a little bit of opening in the bottom of the feet. Then bringing those hands towards the wall. So I'm about a little over a foot, but again, you can kind of play with this space here. Bringing those hands to the wall so they're a little bit above your shoulders, and then maybe starting to walk them up the wall as you let your heart melt down. So kind of like a puppy pose. And so you can have a few options here if you were to just use a blanket, and then you can untuck your toes. So as if you were up here, walking those hands up and then kind of almost pressing the hands against the wall as that heart melts forward. You can let the head soften if that feels okay to you. Again, if you can even tuck your toes even if you're on a blanket and you feel your bottom of your feet open. And playing with that stretch in the chest. Let your shoulder blades glide down your back. Take a big, deep inhale. As you exhale, let that breath go. Feel that stretch in the chest, and even notice breath as it infuses in the space between your shoulder blades. This really helps counteract that kind of caching of the spine as, or tech neck as we call it, like as you hold your phone and we all kind of round forward. This is counteracting that. So as often as you can do this stretch. If you're feeling this too much in your low back, think of drawing pubic bone to belly button to soften and counteract that. So I don't want to tell you just to tuck your tailbone under. There's just a really gentle drawing in. Think of the pubic bone towards belly button to soften into that low back. We're not looking for this huge sway in the back, but a nice length here. So you can even inhale and gentle pubic bone to belly button here. Press the hands against the wall and then let that heart melt. So we're keeping the integrity of the low back, and you feel that stretch in between the shoulder blades as well. Once again, breathe into that space. Exhale, let it go. Just a few more breaths. This can be a little intense. We're kind of working into that tension that we create in the shoulders, shoulder blades, the trapezius. Take one more big, deep inhale. Cleansing, clearing exhale. Open your jaw. Gently walk your hands down. And simply come to your knees. You can even bring a bolster, kind of straddling and sitting on top of a bolster. You can sit on top of a block or on top of your towel. Take an inhale, bring those shoulders up as you exhale, soften them back down. Then clasp those hands back behind. Once again, pubic bone to belly button to soften into the low back. Inhale, open up. As you exhale, release your hands, bring those hands forward and round through. Inhale, bring those arms up. Exhale. And just one more stretch to kind of help counter and open up our chest. This one also has a couple of different options. You can have a bolster. Once again, having those knees on top, toes tucked under. So we're going to come so the right side, we're really close to the right side of the wall. So the hip, the shoulder is actually almost touching. So you can stay here on those knees, toes tucked under. You can come down onto a blanket, having the toes untucked, sitting on top. So taking that right hand, palm against the wall, thumb down. Take a nice big inhale. Sweep that arm up. As you exhale, bring it around, keeping that chest as forward as you possibly can. And maybe you'll notice your elbow bending, that's fine. Then when it comes straight, so your shoulder height, then begin to kind of lean into that shoulder against the wall. Maybe even the hip goes against the wall. So another option, you can leave your arm, is to also bring that right foot forward. So you're kind of into this nice little low lunge. Again, think pubic bone to belly button, or even a little energetic draw, right heel towards the left knee, and you can get a stretch into the hip flexors as well as this shoulder. So this hip is staying against the wall, shoulders pressing against the wall as far as feels comfortable, and almost trying to square off shoulders. They're not going to be perfectly square. We're stretching the front of the chest. You bring that hand on top of the knee if it feels better. Big deep inhale. Then back off of that stretch. You can bend and then come back down. Just take a little break, both palms up. Inhale, wave the spine long. As you exhale, shoulder blades glide down your back. Just see how that feels. And then we'll come to the opposite side. So again, you can be just down on your towel, toes are tucked, sitting back here. Hips are close. So that left hand is going to come forward, fan out those fingertips. Or you can untuck the toes. You can start in that low lunge if you'd like. Worry about what you can see and what you can't see. I'm going to start down here so it's a little bit easier to see. Really close, hugging that wall. Thumb down, left palm of the hand against the wall. Take a nice inhale and feel into that full range of motion. Feel into your shoulder. Move nice and slow. There's no rush. You might notice your elbow bend, and that's okay. And then straighten it out as it comes to shoulder length, shoulder height. Let that hip against the wall, and then let that chest move as close to the wall as possible. Again, it can be up into low lunge. Find that little softening of the low back. So there's almost like an energetic pull between the heel and the knee. Pubic bone to belly button. Then you can sink down and low. Hip stays against the wall, and that shoulder or chest, left side, is pressing against the wall as much as feels comfortable. We're not jamming ourselves into this stretch, but moving slow, bringing your breath. Take one more big, deep inhale. Release your jaw, exhale it out. And then soften back down. And this time we're just going to sit against the wall. So if you'd like to have your rolled up towel or even sit up on a block with a blanket over the top, bringing one foot in front of the other or however feels most comfortable for you, pressing. Even the back of the head can rest on the wall, but feel the torso grow long. So sits bones root down. Inhale, let the crown of the head reach up, and as you exhale, there's a softening of the shoulder blades, almost as if your shoulders were kind of pressing against the wall. Keep all that spaciousness in the chest and the back that you just created. Hands can come on top of your knees, palms up or down, or maybe they stay towards the mat. You can close your eyes or let your gaze just soften. The other quote from Abraham Joshua Heschel was, "Our goal should be to live life in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed." So just here in these last few moments, as you inhale, we're going to focus on breath and you can focus on those amazing spaces within. We can be amazed with our own bodies, with our own self. As you exhale, let there be a softening of the belly. As you inhale, think of the breath widening and expanding between your hips, your waist, your low back, your ribs expand, the collarbone expands, maybe the shoulders press against the wall a little bit more. Exhale, slowly emptying out breath, knowing that breath just on its own is doing so much here. It's clearing and taking out carbon dioxide. These big, deep inhales are signaling to our body that it's okay, we can stop the fight or flight. They'll lower the cortisol and adrenaline, a space where our minds can soften and be amazed. And take a moment just to let your focus, your attention settle on that heart space. As it wells up with breath, think of it welling up with a desire and an awe. of life. Maybe allow your heart to accept these small, beautiful, phenomenal, incredible, yet very simple moments, spaces, even people, encounters that we have. We may not think much about them, but maybe they are on some level deeply connecting. As I said, the life that takes place under wide horizons, horizons that range beyond the span of an individual life, or even the life of a nation, a generation, or an era. We're still a part of this life. Again, let that exhale release any tension that you're holding. Let the belly be big. Stop holding it in. Just let go for a moment of all breath and just watch your natural breath here. If you feel a need to draw in a big breath or a yawn, do so and really exhale and expel it all out. But just let yourself melt. Let your head rest against the wall. Let your shoulders release. And then as you're ready, just to end, take a nice big inhale. Let your hands just float up, your arms float up. You can release off the wall or stay against the wall, whatever feels good to you. Reaching up, letting your center column get really tall. Crown of the head reaches up, arms reach up, but let the shoulder blades soften down. And as you exhale, just softly, softly let everything release back down. Shoulder blades release. Make your eyes softly flutter back open. I thank you so much. I hope you are feeling lengthened and stretched and extremely relaxed, therefore creating this nice little energetic feeling in you to go on the rest of your day and your week. And I hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much.